Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
I'm Chris Stashew.
And I'm Jess Byard.
And we are the hosts of The One Season Show, a podcast where we take a look at TV shows who only lasted one season from start to finish.
Each month we'll tackle several episodes of the show, and on this episode we are taking a look at the 1967's two episodes, Checkmate and The Chimes of Big Ben for The Prisoner.
Now mind you, again, if you're following along with us, please do not forget that while it is episode 4 and 5, these episodes are being played out of order, but in an order that is better suited by the 6 of 1 fan group for the show. But let's get right to it with Checkmate.
Patrick McGoohan is the prisoner, trapped in a strange, terrifying prison.
A lot of people are curious about what lies behind your resignation. They want to know why you suddenly left. A man like you is worth a great deal on the open market. The information in your head is priceless. I don't think you realize what a valuable property you've become. What a valuable property you've become.
Patrick McGoohan is the prisoner.
Checkmate, which we had previously, I believe, speculated that Checkmate, the title, could insinuate that we might get an answer on the cliffhanger that we ended off before. As you and I surmised, we did not.
Of course not.
Checkmate just refers to a much more interesting concept, actually, to me, and I always find this, I've seen it used in multiple things, but the idea of a human chessboard, in where they voluntarily play, and number 6, this is how we open. We just open in the beautiful village, of course, and this game is being played, and number 6 voluntarily gets in, and then starts getting chummy with the rook, and starts...
I mean, he's pretty much shanghaied into being part of that board.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's... number 6, everything he does, he's, manipulated into one way or the other, like that. And that's very much the overlying theme here is no matter how much he's trying to not be a part of this world and trying to figure out and trying to get away, he's always going to end up being a part of it in some way. And in this case, he gets this very heavy-handed metaphor of a human chessboard. And
heavy-handed? What do you mean? Whatever do you mean?
And starts getting chummy with the rook, and they start devising a plan, and of course, spy shenanigans go awry. Plan doesn't work, whatever. Was this guy that he's making the plan with, is that Dutton?
No. So
okay, so just
another British gentleman or Northern European gentleman. So this episode, again, it's directed by Don Chaffee, written by Gerald Kelsey. It stars, like you mentioned, Ronald Rad as the Rook. Peter Wingard plays number 2, pretty well, I might add. I think he's
like him.
Pretty good. He's one of the better ones that we've seen so far. I'm glad that they are recasting them every episode, and they're really giving us these different characters that are different, but at the same time feel very similar.
Well, there was that. I mean, they're that that quintessential kind of British villain, and they all embody a different type of British villain. But they're all kind of cheeky and smarmy and funny and, charming to a point. I haven't, been totally put off by any of them, but they all, have their own dark side there that comes out. Then it kind of keeps, it definitely keeps the episodes fresh, at least. It keeps, at least that part of it keeps fresh. It does help keep, I think some of the story and pacing and everything going when you have that kind of charming character and charismatic character that's played by all these different kind of charismatic actors and actresses. It's nice to see, because number 2 is not a person, it's an office, essentially. So it can be anybody, any person, any gender, any race, any who. Obviously, we've actually only seen
character.
We have only really seen a lot of white people in this show for the most part.
I believe there was an Asian character at one point.
Yes.
But I would like to point out that we're probably not going to see anyone other than white people.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm sure. And part of that is that there's hints that this might be behind the Iron Curtain or somewhere around that. So we have a lot of like Estonian and Russian and, more Eastern European and that area, a general groups of people.
And then that's also reinforced in the next episode. Maybe again, what you don't ever know in this show until right about the end of the episode is how much of what they're talking about is real and how much of what they're talking about is a put on. And there's no way of knowing. I just kind of at this point, we're 4 or 5 episodes in at this point. Me personally, I just kind of assume everything that he's being told is a lie.
Right.
Everything he's being told is manipulative in a direction that benefits the village or this kind of like overarching greater good, as one might say from Hot Fuzz. But yeah, there's we're in Eastern Europe somewhere. No, they're not. They're totally not. They're in a British Isle somewhere, and I'm not just saying that because that's where it's filmed. They're clearly just like a couple, maybe 20, 30 miles off the coast of the United Kingdom somewhere.
Right. Yeah. But they try and create this illusion that he's surrounded by all these other presumably these people who have held interesting jobs and where they would have information that people would want. So government jobs, spy jobs like his, things like that. And so, yeah, it's just kind of formed for the times. I mean, it was the 60s also. So, and yeah, we're watching this through 2020 vision. So, which is, God.
It's hard not to, and you can't fault us for doing it, but at the same time, we're doing our best as...
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
We're doing our best as reviewers to not let that sway our judgment of the show.
Right. And I mean, I watch a ton of stuff from this era. So yeah, it's just watching something within a prism of time. But I think that this episode they're straight up torturing people. Like there are some dark undertones in this village, and that are dealt with very casually, even by number 6, whose whole thing in this is figuring out why he's there and what's going on. But he's pretty nonchalant and really nonplussed about some of the, like, you know, more egregious things that are happening in here. And even if he is sort of, you know, upset by it, he's not doing a whole lot. And he then just kind of slides right back into the norm of everything anyway. So it's kind of weird because, I mean, at one point, like, what they have this guy in, but is it like a hot box? Is that what they're doing? Is it?
I guess so.
Like it's some kind of like sauna or whatever, you know, like just like oven where you're standing in it and he, you know, they're turning up the heat because they want to get information out of him. So they're straight up torturing people. And number 6 is, you know, he's kind of concerned about it, but he does end up like working with this guy later, but still there's never any real sense of urgency. He never really seems that upset by
and
what
I don't know if
seeing.
that's like a put on or if that is the reality that he just doesn't care. I can't really tell.
Or it's Patrick McGoohan.
Yeah, so I watched some interviews with Patrick McGoohan, and yep.
Yes, I read some things about him. What did you see?
I saw that he is exactly what we talked about on our last episode.
Stodgy.
He is a stodgy Brit, and, you know, like we mentioned, him turning down the role of James Bond because that role was, quote, too promiscuous, to the interviews that I've seen, and they're all on YouTube, and some of the things that I'm sure you've read that I've also read. He does not sound, not like a pleasant person to be around, but he didn't sound like he was the most fun.
Right, yeah. I was reading that, you know, the show he was in, Danger Man, which is essentially just TV James Bond. He never kissed, like, he never shot anybody, never kissed anybody, and he did drink, because I know Patrick McGoohan was actually a drinker. So he was that one thing. But yeah, I guess so I was reading more about him, and I was reading an article just about how, like, this show got made and everything. And there were just some bits from the cast and crew, and notably somebody said that they were convinced that Patrick McGoohan was having a nervous breakdown and effectively committing it to celluloid in this show. And I mean, I guess, you know, I guess I could see that. He was extremely hard to work with, I guess. People didn't like to fight. They hated the fight scenes because he'd actually, like, punch people for real, which in these episodes, I think I noticed more fighting than in, you know, maybe some previous ones, or maybe, I don't know, it just stuck out. But yeah, he was pretty volatile to work with, and I guess he was very committed to this show, so he definitely wanted to be there. I know we were kind of discussing, we couldn't really get a read on that last episode, but yeah, no, he was very committed to this, and I don't know, it's a very interesting piece, and it's interesting to know that it means or meant a lot to him. I don't know what those feelings are now. What is Patrick McGoohan up to? Is he still with us?
He is long gone 11 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah,
some of the interviews I saw with him, I didn't even recognize him. He has like,
really?
he has like mutton chops and like long hair. And I was like,
oh wow, that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of my response. Yeah, I mean, look, you know, think of him what you will, but what he brings to the role is exactly what the role needs. Yeah.
And I think that does come out in this episode, because there's kind of this weird, so basically there's a plot A and a plot B happening in this. Neither of them really go anywhere, as per usual.
Yeah, I was going to say, this might be a reoccurring trend, huh?
And the first is, as we've talked about, him teaming up with the Rook to kind of, you know, devise another escape plan that's inevitably not going to work. And this other B plot where this woman has been, was she number 36? I can't remember. Has been kind of
the
like,
Queen, Rosalie Crutchley.
Yeah. and she's been assigned to him as his wife?
Tailing him? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like posed. She's tailing him because obviously she's spying on them and spying on him when that becomes apparent. But at first it kind of seems like they put her in there to be like, here, act like his sort of like girlfriend wife thing, and that'll kind of like calm him down. And there's scenes where he's acting like they are kind of playing that sort of domestic role, and it's kind of weird, but in kind of a fun way, because it just seems like you can tell that, number 6 is very clearly playing with this person, and she has to very clearly play back. So it's just kind of a who's going to crack first sort of deal. And I kind of loved that chemistry that they had there.
Well, and the other thing, like we've been saying, is that this is ultimately going nowhere. So it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, you're just like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. This is ultimately going to end in her turning out to be, which she obviously was, you knew that, but he didn't, or maybe he did, her as a spy, so great.
Right, yeah, and that's generally what these episodes are generally comprised of, the A and B plot, and generally the A and B plot are pretty much what these are. It's, he devises a scheme with one person, and then another person is spying on him.
And sometimes the person he devises the plan with is the person who's spying on him.
Yes. Bum, bum, bum.
Now let's talk about The Chimes of Big Ben. Also directed by Don Chaffee, written by Vincent Tilsley, stars Nadia Gray as the new number 8 and Leo McKern as the new number 2. But this time around, number 8, again played by Nadia Gray, is actually given a name, Nadia Rakovsky. She's a swimmer, I guess. And she arrives in town, tries to escape the village, and ends up being brought back, as everyone normally does. And in doing so, she and number 6 make a plot to escape, and for all intents and purposes, you think that they do, until they don't.
Right. And I do want to note that specifically on Amazon, which is, again, what we're watching this on, this episode is number 2 in their order, which I'm glad we did not watch this as number 2, because it does feel like an episode, despite the fact that we have talked about, how all of these episodes sort of seem like you're jumping in the middle of it. This episode at least did feel like the episodes that happened before it actually happened before it, because there's talk of him, do you remember your first time being drugged? Basically when Nadia shows up, number 2 is asking number 6 if he remembers what it was like his first time there. And if we had watched that in the second episode, I would have been like, what the fuck? How long have you been here already? It doesn't. So I am glad. I do think that at least this in our chosen order does kind of feel like it makes sense in a way.
Yeah, I think if we had watched this immediately, it'd have been all of a sudden, he's trying to escape and, here we go. Yeah.
Right.
But to be fair, at the same time, we've seen this so many times now that it just does kind of feel rote. But at the same time, I also went, maybe he actually is going to escape.
Exactly. I did like this episode. I liked this episode a lot, actually, because I liked him, and I like the fact that, Nadia shows up. She's this woman who also, they brought her here for information, and she just really can't hack it. So she tries to swim her way out of it. Obviously, that doesn't work, and she almost drowns. They bring her back, and they're kind of interrogating her. And number 2, straight up says, I don't even, she's not even worth the trouble. I don't know why they even brought her here. And you just kind of feel like, oh, man. So they're just okay, and because we still don't know who's, we have an idea, but we don't know who's bringing these people in, or why they're being brought in, or who all of these people are, whether or not they all are spies, or, what other jobs they've had, or whatever incidents they've had that, have given them information that's privileged. So I liked the chemistry between them and the actual, escape plan. And yeah, I liked the sort of twist, which you know, like you said, Chris, we've watched this, we know the formula. And even if I know that this is, you know, how I know a mark of an actual successful episode is like, even though I know your formula and I know where you're going, if you do make me question that for a couple minutes, I think you've done like a decent job that episode, that particular, you know, swing, because like you said, we've seen this formula every episode, and it's true here too. He does not actually escape, but how they do it and how, you know, he realizes is just sort of it's just good. It's good writing in that case. It's good set design. It's kind of good drama. Like, it's good drama, and you almost feel like, okay, like, now what's going to happen? Like, are they on the same side as the village? What's going on here? And yeah, I enjoyed that reveal.
I mean, we do learn that the people that he used to work for are in on this.
Right.
Explicitly in on this.
Right. Which, yeah, because of course it's revealed at the end, like, yeah, oh, hey, I also want to know why you resigned. Because that's the whole thing, is nobody knows why number 6 resigned, and he knows all of this stuff, and they don't have any reason as to why. So, I mean, I understand the suspicion, but yeah, it's all very elaborate. But also, this was another episode that I felt was pretty relatable, given, you know, just relevant to us and our current living situation and everything. So there's a point in this where, I believe it's number 2, he says both sides are becoming identical, and both sides, once they see the mirror, realize that it's the same on the other side, that's when real change can happen, and that's when, you know, that's when people can mobilize. But if you can keep them at odds and keep them thinking that they can strive for better than somebody else, then you kind of hold the power over them. And that, I don't know, that speaks to me. And, you know, just in general, society.
That's fair. I know, I completely understand. I like the idea of the bait and switch with him getting away, but at the same time, we're 5 episodes into this show. He's not getting away.
Right.
I could have done without the whole essentially last third of the episode being them in boxes and him being his usual kind of prickly self towards number 8. I could have done without it because I knew he wasn't getting away. There's just no way. There's, 12 more episodes of this show.
Right.
And as much as I maybe let my guard down for a moment, there's no way that this is where the show is going and he's away from the village after 5 episodes.
Right. Like, the only way that would happen is if they could actually bring some people back into it, and then it turns into kind of an invasion.
Yeah, they have to go back to there to get the people out or something to that effect.
Right.
That's not where this show is going.
No.
We've known that from the get-go. We know that the show will end at the village, and that is kind of the issue with this show, watching it in 2020, is we know that the show, even if we don't know how the show ends, we know that he never gets away in the run of the show until the final episode.
Right.
So every episode being him just trying to get away and them figuring out a new way to stop him. It's not that it's boring, it's just how many more times can we do this before one of us goes, okay, maybe don't keep going back to this well 17 times. Because don't forget, they even tried to have him escape in the first episode.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's fair. And I can definitely see, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I don't know. I think I'm fine with it, though, because I think, that overwhelmingly that it's what the show's about.
Sure. No, I agree. I think my issue is going this far is the problem. Mm-hmm. Going as far as he escaped, wink, wink, okay.
Would you have preferred if this episode happened later?
Yeah, I think this episode would have benefited from being later in the show's run, don't you think?
I could see that. Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely glad we didn't watch it as number 2, as Amazon had. Just, if you're watching it, don't do that. Don't watch it on Amazon the way they have it, evidently. So yeah, I do think that this would have been, I can definitely see it being more effective happening later on because they do a good job at kind of trying to trick you, and I think that I agree, it would have had more impact later on, and it might have been a bit more crushing because he had so even more episodes between like the first and that one. So yeah, I can see that.
I think for me, just going as far as this episode went with they get away this early on in the show's run, I think it's a little bit of a misstep. But
that is only because we're watching this order.
Sure. But to be fair, if we watched it in the order on just Amazon, it would be even worse.
Right. Where does this fall on the other orders? I'm curious.
It's in the first 5.
For all of them?
Yeah. The first 5 episodes are, aside from the first episode, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in a variety of orders on most of these episode guides that we've read.
So. Maybe at the end of this podcast, there will be a special 1-season show ordering.
I mean, there may have to be because this episode shouldn't be this early on. It really should.
I mean, we could totally do that if we.
Might not be a bad idea.
Special 1-season show. Yeah.
Weigh in. We need to weigh in our opinion on the show, and maybe we'll get it on. We'll get our version on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
for people
exactly.
To look at.
We could just put it on there, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. We can. It's Wikipedia.
We'll just do that.
That's what makes Wikipedia great and subsequently awful at the same time. I will tell you, though, I do like Leo McKern as the new number 2. He's my favorite number 2 that we've seen up until this point.
All right, I can dig that. Yeah, I agree. I like him, and I do.
He just has a good look to him. Like, he has like a very unique look.
Yeah, he does. Like, he should be in some like Hammer horror movies.
And he also has a glass eye, and he also is not British. He's Australian.
Hey, there we go.
So I actually recognized him from a film that I'm sure I'm going to take a lot of flack for liking, but I liked it when I was in high school. I still like it. I also like the source material. A Man for All Seasons.
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty good. It's a little dry, but I definitely enjoy it if you're into kind of period pieces and a film about standing by your convictions. It's definitely in the wheelhouse. But I like Leo McKern in this episode a lot. He kind of steals the show.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree. I like him. Like I said, I would like to see him in if he was in some kind of, like Edgar Allan Poe adaptation that they were doing in the late 60s like that. I think that would be some great casting.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But yeah, he does not get away again. That's sort of where we're probably always going to end with these episodes. But I liked these 2 more, I think, than maybe a couple other ones, because I think that they at least, the chemistry with other characters was really good. The other characters were interesting. It's nice seeing more. I do like this, now that he's not the brand new one, we are seeing other people come in. And I like that. I like the potential that has. And, I do see where you're coming from, Chris, because, again, this show does have a lot of potential, and it just kind of feels like it doesn't end up going anywhere. And when I was reading on it from the general consensus was that nobody really had any idea on where this show was going, that Patrick McGoohan was just kind of winging it as he was going. Now there's conflicting thoughts, because I guess at the time, like when the documentary was filmed, he was saying he knew where it was going, but everybody else is kind of saying that was bull. And I'll say this much. Kind of agree with them.
I'll say this much. If the show can be watched in any order, they didn't know where they were going.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I think
I know that some of it's like a production thing. Yeah, I know some of it's like a production issue at the same time, but let's be honest, if you can watch this show in any order or multitudes of different orders, they had no idea where they were going.
Orders.
Yeah, exactly. They had no idea where they were going, and I will not hear anything to the contrary. That's don't try to put one over on us, Patrick McGoohan, because it's not going to work.
And I'll buy that you had a full-fledged artistic vision.
Yeah. what are we talking about on the next episode of the One Season Show?
On the next episode, we're going to be talking about episodes 6 and 7, ABC, and The General.
Yep, we are.
We'll see.
I bet in one of those episodes he almost gets away and then gets pulled back to the village. Or maybe both of them. Probably both.
I want to see more Rover. We did get to see a little bit of him in these episodes.
We got to see a little bit of him, but he didn't do anything.
No, he's just threatening. He just rolled through town all threatening like.
And everyone just stopped and watched him roll on through town.
Yeah. Yep.
So while we're not here, where can people find you, Jess?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. You can find me twice a month on your show, Chris, the Culture Cast, movie-themed podcast. Every month's a different theme. And you can find us on our other podcast, Scary Stories We Tell, where we talk about all kinds of true crime, unexplained phenomenon, and the horror culture that surrounds it. So if any of that stuff tickles your fancy, feel free, check it out. And what about you, Chris?
You've already mentioned, a lot of the stuff I've done, you and I have done together. Obviously, our podcast at this point, it's an ever-growing number. Chronicles from the Crypt, Life and Times of Barney Miller, Dreams for Sale, Culture Cast. That's it. Twitter, casualty_Chris is where you can find. OneSeasonShow.com is where you can find us. The rest of the show, we've done 2 seasons up until this point. We're technically on our 3rd season now. Go check those out. Every season is a different show, which means if you're not into The Prisoner and sci-fi, you can go check out us talking about a sitcom from the mid-2000s or a werewolf show from the early, or I guess the late 80s. So if that's more your jam and this isn't, go for it. That's the point of this show, is to talk about stuff all over the place and kind of give a broad range of topics. So we are on Twitter at One Season Show, and the music for the podcast is Mustaches and Martinis. And we'll catch you on the next episode.